While installing new flooring in our kitchen, my wife didn't notice me under the sink cabinet when her sister visited. "Have you told him you're moving out next month?" she said. "Hey, Facebook groups. Been lurking for years, but never thought I'd be posting my own story here. This is still fresh, still hurts like a dropped hammer on my thumb, but I need to get it off my chest. Buckle up, this isn't a quick fix job. My wife, Ashley, and I have been married for 7 years. We bought our starter home 3 years ago, nothing fancy, just a 3-bed with decent bones, but outdated everything. Being in the renovation business, I've been slowly fixing it up room by room. Our relationship was like that house. Solid foundation, decent structure, but maybe needed some work in places. At least, that's what I thought. Last month, Ashley kept dropping hints about wanting the kitchen done before summer. I noticed she'd been acting different lately, staying late at work, being glued to her phone, taking calls in another room. Typical SUS behavior, but I chalked it up to stress from her upcoming promotion. Stupid me. I thought finishing the kitchen would make her happy, show her I was invested in our future. So last Saturday, I started tearing out the old vinyl flooring, nasty stuff from the 90s that was peeling at the edges. The plan was to install those vinyl planks that look like hardwood. Ashley had picked the color herself, all excited about how it would match the new backsplash we'd chosen. I'd already finished most of the demo work and was starting on the plumbing under the sink. I had to adjust some pipes to fit the new cabinet depth. I was lying on my back, half inside the sink cabinet with my tools spread around me, when I heard the front door open. Ashley wasn't supposed to be home until after lunch. She'd gone for brunch with her sister, Chloe. They came in laughing about something, clearly not expecting me to be in earshot. I was about to call out when I heard Chloe ask, "Have you told him you're moving out next month?" My whole body went cold, like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water down my spine. I froze, wrench in hand, barely breathing. Ashley's laugh made me sick to my stomach. "No way. I need to secure my promotion first, then take half the accounts." Her voice had this tone I'd never heard before, calculating, cold. "The timing has to be perfect. If I leave before the promotion goes through, I might not get it. But once I do, that's an extra $20 grand a year in my pocket." Chloe asked if she was worried I'd figure it out. Ashley just scoffed, said I was too busy playing with my tools to notice anything. She said I was predictable, that I'd be crushed but wouldn't fight back. Then they started discussing the logistics. Ashley already had an apartment lined up, had been slowly moving personal items to Chloe's place, had a separate bank account I knew nothing about. 7 years together, and she was talking about me like I was some clueless chump she'd been tolerating. The rage that built inside me was like nothing I'd felt before. My hand was gripping the wrench so hard my knuckles went white, but I didn't move, didn't make a sound. Some instinct told me to stay put, to learn everything I could. They moved into the living room, voices fading but still audible. Ashley was worried about the joint accounts, wondering how to maximize what she could take. Chloe suggested talking to her friend who'd cleaned out her ex good during their divorce. They discussed the timing like this was some kind of military operation. Ashley wanted to wait until after her parents' anniversary party next month, so it wouldn't spoil their celebration. How considerate. I lay there for what felt like hours, but was probably 20 minutes until they decided to head back out to finish their shopping day. When the door closed, I crawled out from under that sink feeling like my chest had been hollowed out with a rusty spoon. You know what's the worst part? We've been talking about starting a family. I'd been saving for fertility treatments because Ashley has POS. There was $15 grand sitting in an account specifically earmarked for our future family, a family she knew would never exist. I wandered around the half-demolished kitchen, mind racing. My first impulse was to pack my bags and be gone when she got home, or to confront her the second she walked through the door. But something stopped me. The more I thought about her smug certainty that I wouldn't fight back, that I was too predictable, the more determined I became to prove her wrong. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I went back to work. I channeled every ounce of rage into that floor installation. By the time Ashley came home around 6 p.m., I had half the new flooring laid, working with mechanical precision that helped keep me sane. She walked in all smiles, commenting how good it looked, asked if I wanted to order DoorDash since the kitchen was torn up. I smiled back and said sure. That night was surreal. We ate Chinese food on the couch, watched some Mac show I couldn't focus on, and she cuddled up next to me like everything was normal. She even initiated sex later, which now made me wonder if it was guilt or just maintaining the facade. I went through the motions, feeling nothing but disgust and rage. Every touch, every fake smile, was like sandpaper on my soul. But I played my part, told her I loved her before we fell asleep, while silently vowing she'd regret every word I'd heard. Sleep wasn't happening. Once Ashley's breathing steadied, I slipped out of bed and started my reconnaissance mission. Her phone was locked, but I knew her laptop password. Nothing suspicious in her emails I could access. But then I checked our joint accounts online and noticed regular transfers of $200 to $300 to her personal account over the past few months, more than the usual spending money she kept separate. Small enough that I hadn't noticed, but it added up to thousands. I took pictures of everything with my phone. Documentation would be key. By 3 a.m., I was sitting on our back porch, texting my buddy Michael. Need to talk ASAP. Marriage emergency. Not joking. He responded immediately despite the hour. Tomorrow, lunch, the local diner. The next morning, I was back at the flooring installation before Ashley woke up. Acting normal was the hardest job I've ever done, harder than any renovation I've tackled. She kissed me goodbye, said she was so lucky to have such a handy husband, and headed off to work. The second her car pulled away, I collapsed against the new cabinets, shaking with anger and betrayal. But I wasn't going to be the predictable chump she thought I was. The renovation would continue exactly as she wanted it. Perfect, beautiful, everything she dreamed of. And while I worked, I'd build something else too. The perfect plan to make her regret ever thinking she could discard me like outdated vinyl flooring. By Sunday night, I'd finished most of the floor installation. The physical labor helped me process the shock. Every nail I drove in was like securing a piece of my resolve. Every measured cut was a calculated step in my emerging plan. Ashley was all compliments and affection, even brought me beer while I worked, and talked about how excited she was for the finished kitchen. Monday was when things really started shifting into gear. Lunch with Michael was exactly what I needed. We met at our local deli, and the second I told him what happened, he went from concerned to furious on my behalf. "You got to hit back harder than she expects, man," he said between bites. "She thinks you're predictable. Show her how wrong she is." We spent the lunch break outlining what I needed to do. Separate finances, document everything, consult a lawyer before she had a chance to. Michael's brother went through a nasty divorce last year, so he had the playbook ready. "Don't show your cards too early," was his main advice. "Get everything lined up first. The element of surprise is your only advantage right now." I went back to work on the renovation that evening with renewed purpose. Ashley texted that she'd be home late. "Work dinner," she called it. Yeah, right. I used the time alone to start making moves. First call was to my bank, where I opened a new individual account. Second was to a divorce attorney Michael recommended, scheduling a consultation for Wednesday during my lunch break. While installing the last section of flooring, I found Ashley's old journal behind the refrigerator. It must have fallen back there during the initial cabinet removal. I'm not proud, but I read it. Entries from the past 2 months confirmed everything. She'd been planning this for a while, talked about feeling stuck and ready for her next chapter. She mentioned some guy from work named Jason multiple times. Nothing explicitly stating they were having an affair, but enough innuendo to make it clear something was happening. The entry that really got me was dated just 3 weeks ago. D. Talking about fertility treatments again. Feel guilty, but what's the point in starting that process when I'm leaving? Would just complicate the exit plan. Better to keep stalling. That night when she came home smelling faintly of wine and wearing makeup that had been refreshed, I almost lost it. I almost threw the journal in her face and watched her world implode. But I remembered Michael's advice, strategic patience. Let her think her plan was working while I dismantled it piece by piece. "Kitchen's looking amazing, babe," she said, kissing my cheek. "You're so talented. This is going to add so much value to the house." The irony wasn't lost on me. Value she planned to cash in on without me. "Just want you to be happy," I replied, the words tasting like ashes in my mouth. "I am happy," she lied right to my face, without a flicker of remorse. "So happy with you." I nodded and turned back to my work, unable to look at her without my expression giving everything away. That's when I decided this renovation would be my masterpiece, and my revenge would be just as meticulously crafted. Tuesday morning, Ashley left for work early for a big presentation. I called in sick to my own job and spent the day doing reconnaissance and preparation. I photographed all our important documents, made copies of tax returns, took inventory of everything valuable in the house with dates of purchase and approximate values. I checked all our account balances and took screenshots. By Tuesday night, I had a complete picture of our financial situation and was developing my strategy. The kitchen was nearly done, just needed to install the new sink and finish the backsplash. Ashley was over the top with compliments when she got home, talking about hosting a dinner party to show off my hard work. The audacity was breathtaking. She was planning a dinner party for friends she'd continue seeing after discarding me in the kitchen I built for her. Looking at her across that half-finished room, it hit me how completely I'd misread our entire relationship. The foundation wasn't solid. It was rotten through and through. "Something wrong?" she asked, noticing my expression. "Just tired," I lied. "Been pushing hard to get this done for you." She smiled, apparently satisfied with my explanation. "It'll be worth it. This kitchen is going to be amazing." "Yeah," I agreed, turning back to the sink installation. "You have no idea how amazing it's going to be." As I worked late into the night, I could hear her on the phone in our bedroom, voice low, probably talking to Chloe about their plan, or maybe Jason. At that point, the details didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what I would do next. By Wednesday morning, I had the skeleton of my plan in place. 5 days. That's how long I estimated I needed to get everything lined up. 5 days of pretending, of renovation work, of careful preparation. 5 days until Ashley would regret every word she'd said under that sink, and she wouldn't even see it coming. Update 1. Holy, I wasn't expecting my post to blow up like this. Thanks for all the support and advice, Facebook groups. Here's what happened in the 5 days after I discovered my wife's plans to leave me. Day 1, Wednesday. The morning after my lunch with Michael, I woke up with this weird clarity. Ashley was already gone. Early meeting, according to her text. The house felt different somehow, like when you're about to flip a property and see past the current mess to what it could become. My consultation with the divorce attorney was eye-opening AF. I'd grabbed copies of all our financial docs and brought them with me. The no-nonsense attorney listened to my story without blinking. She explained how crucial it was that I'd learned about Ashley's plans before she executed them. In my state, cleaning out joint accounts isn't technically illegal between spouses. If Ashley had grabbed everything first, it would have been a nightmare. That afternoon, I opened a new individual account at a different bank. Then I moved exactly half of our joint savings, $37,000. Not a penny more than my fair share. I wasn't going to play dirty like Ashley planned to, but I wasn't going to be a doormat either. When I got home, I went straight back to work on the kitchen. The backsplash tile was a complicated herringbone pattern Ashley had picked out, labor-intensive as hell, but it would look amazing. Ashley came home around 7, carrying DoorDash again. She mentioned her promotion might come through earlier than expected. That set off alarm bells immediately. According to what I'd overheard, her exit strategy was tied to that promotion timeline. She showed me some shoes she'd bought online, 3rd pair this month. The old Ashley was careful with money. This new Ashley was living like the joint accounts were already hers alone. Once I heard her go upstairs, I texted Michael an update. He replied immediately, "Good first steps. Tomorrow we go nuclear on Operation GTFO." Day 2, Thursday. Day 2 was about documentation and intelligence gathering. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but when your wife is plotting to clean you out, you get intense about this. I took photos of everything valuable in our house before Ashley was up, made a spreadsheet noting when each item was purchased and by whom. While Ashley was in the shower, I quickly checked her planner. There it was, meeting with Janine, 1 p.m. Janine was her friend who'd gone through a divorce, the same friend who, according to Ashley's sister, had cleaned out her ex good. Around noon, I installed one of those parental monitoring apps on our shared laptop. Ashley used it more than I did, and I needed to know what she was planning. By mid-afternoon, I'd finished the backsplash and was installing the new cabinet handles. Ashley had picked out these matte black ones that cost way more than they should have. Michael came by after work with beer and pizza. We sat on the back deck where neighbors couldn't overhear, and I brought him up to speed. I asked if I was overreacting. Michael just gave me this look like I was being the world's biggest dumbass. He reminded me about her secret bank account, the planned apartment, the hidden moving of personal items to her sister's place. When we heard Ashley's car in the driveway, Michael left through the back gate. Ashley walked in almost giddy. She came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and said the promotion was basically a done deal. She should have the official offer by Monday or Tuesday next week. That night, as we lay in bed, Ashley snuggled up against me like everything was normal, asked if the kitchen would be done by Saturday for a potential get-together. I said it would be done tomorrow, actually, ahead of schedule. After she fell asleep, I checked the monitoring app. There were new emails between Ashley and Chloe discussing the apartment lease. Ashley had signed it yesterday. Move-in date was set for exactly 4 weeks from now. Day 3, Friday. Friday was grind time. I had most of the kitchen done, but there were still finishing touches, under-cabinet lighting, caulking, final paint touch-ups. First, I went to our safe and removed my grandma's jewelry that Ashley sometimes wore, family heirlooms that were never technically hers. I packaged them carefully and drove them to my parents' house. Next, I went to the bank and closed our joint credit card account, opened a new one in just my name with a different bank. While I was out, I called the fertility clinic and explained I needed to close our account. The $15 grand we'd saved would be returned within 5 to 7 business days. I gave her my new individual account. Back at the house, I put the finishing touches on the kitchen. As I installed the last piece of molding, I felt this twisted sense of pride. I'd built something beautiful that she would barely get to enjoy. But I wasn't quite finished. There was one last special feature I wanted to add. I carefully removed the new cabinet under the sink, the very one I'd been working under when I overheard their conversation. Inside the wall, I left a sealed Glad food storage bag containing a printed transcript of exactly what I'd heard her say that day, along with copies of her apartment lease, bank transfers, and journal entry. Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying. You have no idea. When Ashley got home, she squealed when she saw the finished kitchen, said it was even better than she'd imagined. We ended up getting sushi delivered while Ashley took photos for Snapchat. #KitchenReno, #DreamKitchen, #BlissfulHomeLife. Later, Ashley came downstairs wearing lingerie I'd never seen before, said she wanted to properly christen the new kitchen. For a second, I almost broke, almost told her I knew everything. But I reminded myself, 2 more days. Just 2 more days until my plan was fully in place. So I went through the motions, feeling nothing but contempt with every touch. Later, I checked the monitoring app again. She texted Chloe, "Kitchen looks amazing. Almost feel bad about the timing, but not really. He'll find another house to fix up LOL." Day 4, Saturday. Saturday morning, Ashley was all enthusiastic about hosting friends that evening to show off the kitchen. While she was out shopping, I finalized all my financial preparations, changed my direct deposit, made copies of all important documents, downloaded our photos from shared cloud storage. Michael came by to help move some of my essential belongings to his garage. Nothing Ashley would immediately notice missing, but things I wouldn't want to lose in the chaos of separation. He asked if I was sure about waiting until tomorrow. Wouldn't it be better to do it before she had friends over? I explained my reasoning. I wanted her to have her moment, to think everything was going perfectly. The higher she felt tonight, the harder tomorrow's fall would be. By 6, guests started arriving. Chloe came first, giving me this weird, sympathetic hug that made me wonder exactly how much she knew. The evening itself was surreal. I grilled steaks, poured drinks, laughed at jokes, all while watching Ashley perform her role of happy wife. During dinner, the conversation turned to future plans. One couple was thinking about starting a family, and everyone looked expectantly. Without missing a beat, Ashley launched into this whole spiel about how we were actually planning to start trying soon. I nearly choked on my beer. The audacity was breathtaking. Chloe caught my eye across the table, looking slightly uncomfortable. At least she had the decency to feel some guilt about the lie. Day 5, Sunday. The final day arrived with perfect symbolism, dark clouds, and a forecast for a severe thunderstorm. Ashley was still asleep when I got up and made coffee. I sat at our kitchen island, admiring my handiwork one last time. I'd planned every detail of this day. Ashley's parents were coming over for lunch, her idea not mine. She wanted to show them the kitchen too. Everyone who mattered to her would be there to witness what came next. As I sipped my coffee, I felt strangely calm. The panic and rage had crystallized into something harder, more resolved. I was no longer hanging drywall in a tornado. I was installing the final perfect piece of crown molding on a masterpiece of revenge. Ashley finally came downstairs around 9 o'clock, yawning and asking if I'd made enough coffee for her. She didn't even notice my mood, too busy checking her phone and making plans for lunch. Her parents were due at noon. I had 3 hours left of pretending, 3 hours until I demolished the life Ashley thought she had so carefully constructed. The storm broke just as they arrived, rain pounding against our new kitchen windows as I welcomed them in. Perfect dramatic backdrop to what would be the most important renovation reveal of my life. And unlike Ashley, I wasn't planning to delay my own personal demolition day, not by a single minute more. Final update. So many of you asked for the conclusion to my story. Well, here it is. The day my wife finally realized she'd messed with the wrong contractor. Pour yourself a drink. This is a long one. Sunday morning felt different. You know that calm before you demo a wall, when everything's prepped, tools are laid out, and you're just waiting for the moment to swing the sledgehammer? That was me, sitting at the kitchen island, drinking coffee, watching the storm clouds gather outside. Ashley came downstairs around 9 o'clock, still half asleep and oblivious to what was coming. She poured herself coffee and started chattering about lunch prep for her parents. I nodded in all the right places while scrolling through my phone, double-checking that everything was in place. I'd barely slept the night before, running through the plan in my head, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to remember every detail of what was about to happen. 7 years of marriage was about to come crashing down, and I wanted to be fully present for it. Ashley's mom texted that they were running 15 minutes late. Ashley seemed annoyed. She always hated when her precise schedules got disrupted. She started chopping vegetables for a salad, commenting on how the new countertops made prep work so much easier. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was admiring the craftsmanship of a kitchen she planned to enjoy without me. While she worked, I set my phone up on the windowsill, angled toward the kitchen island, and pressed record. Not for legal purposes. My state is two-party consent, but for my own sanity later, when Ashley inevitably tried to twist what happened. Around 12:15, the doorbell rang. Ashley's parents arrived, looking damp from the rain but cheerful. Her dad, David, immediately commented on the exterior paint job I'd done last summer. Her mom, Linda, brought flowers for the table, always thoughtful like that. I'd always liked Ashley's parents, which made what was coming even harder. Ashley led them on the grand tour of the kitchen, pointing out all the features as if she'd built them herself. Her parents made appropriate noises of admiration. David asked about the cost, and Ashley waved it off, saying we'd talk numbers later. I almost laughed. She had no idea what numbers we'd actually be discussing soon. As Ashley finished the tour, Linda asked when we were having people over to see it. Ashley mentioned we'd already had friends over last night and was thinking of hosting her work team next weekend. I just smiled, knowing there wouldn't be any work team dinner next weekend. We all settled around the dining table for lunch. Ashley had made her mom's lasagna recipe, one of the few things she cooked well. As we ate, the conversation flowed naturally to Ashley's upcoming promotion. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Ashley went on about how excited she was for this next step in her career, how it would mean more money for our future. She even reached over and squeezed my hand while saying it. The ultimate performance of loving wife. Her dad raised his glass in a toast to her success. Everyone clinked glasses, and in that moment of celebration, I decided it was time. After taking a sip, I set my glass down carefully and said I had an announcement too, something to add to the celebration. Everyone turned to me expectantly. Ashley had that look, half curious, half annoyed at having her spotlight interrupted. I smiled and said I discovered something interesting under the sink last weekend while doing the renovation. Ashley's expression didn't change, but I saw confusion flicker in her eyes. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen a few times, then set it in the middle of the table. The recording I'd made began to play. Ashley and Chloe's voices, crystal clear. Have you told him you're moving out next month? No way. I need to secure my promotion first, then take half the accounts. I trimmed the audio to just the most damning 30 seconds. As it played, I watched the blood drain from Ashley's face. Her parents went completely still, forks frozen halfway to their mouths. When it finished, there was this moment of absolute silence, broken only by the sound of rain against the windows. Ashley's mom spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper, asking Ashley if that was really her on the recording. Ashley's face cycled through shock, embarrassment, and finally settled on anger. She turned to me, calling me every name in the book. How dare I record her private conversations? This was illegal. I was manipulating the situation, taking things out of context. I just sat there, letting her dig herself deeper with every denial. When she finally ran out of steam, I calmly told her I hadn't recorded their original conversation. I'd been under the sink working when they came in. I'd heard every word as it happened. Her dad pushed his plate away and asked Ashley if it was true. Was she really planning to leave? Had she already rented an apartment? Was she planning to clean out the accounts? Ashley started crying. Not genuine tears, but the manipulative kind she'd used before when caught in lies. She claimed I was a terrible husband, that I'd been neglecting her for years, that I was emotionally unavailable. All these accusations that came out of nowhere. Her mom reached across the table and took her hand, asking why Ashley hadn't said anything to them about problems in our marriage. Ashley stammered something about not wanting to worry them, and I saw her trying to salvage the situation, to flip the script and make herself the victim. That's when I laid out everything else I discovered. The secret bank account, the apartment lease she'd signed, the jewelry and personal items she'd already moved to Chloe's place, the texts and emails planning how to maximize what she could take from our joint finances. With each new revelation, Ashley's parents looked more horrified. Her dad kept shaking his head in disbelief. Her mom had tears streaming down her face. Ashley tried one last desperate angle, claiming there must be someone else. That's why I was doing this. I just laughed and pulled out my phone again, scrolling to show her the screenshots I'd taken of her texts with someone named Jason from her work. Nothing explicitly stating they were having an affair, but enough flirty messages to make it clear something inappropriate was happening. Her dad stood up then. He's this old-school guy with a strong moral compass. He told Ashley he and her mother needed to leave, that they needed time to process all this. The disappointment in his eyes was devastating, not for me, but clearly for Ashley, who'd always been Daddy's perfect little girl. As they gathered their things, her mom hugged me and whispered she was so sorry. Her dad shook my hand firmly and said he'd call me later. Neither of them could look at Ashley. When the door closed behind them, Ashley's fake tears dried up instantly. She went into full attack mode, screaming about how I'd ruined everything, how I destroyed her relationship with her parents, how I'd never understand why she needed to leave. I just stood there, oddly calm as she melted down. When she finally paused to breathe, I told her I had one more announcement. While she'd been planning her exit strategy, I'd been implementing mine. I explained that I'd already moved half of our savings to an account in my name only, that I'd closed our joint credit cards, that I'd contacted the fertility clinic and redirected the $15 grand we'd saved for treatments to my personal account, that I'd documented every valuable item in the house with proof of purchase and ownership. Her face went from angry to panicked as she realized what this meant. Her entire plan to blindside me and clean me out financially was completely derailed. She grabbed her phone, probably to check our accounts. Her hands were shaking so badly, she dropped it twice before managing to log in. I watched as the reality hit her. Half our money was already gone, legally gone, moved to accounts she couldn't touch. That's when she switched tactics. Suddenly, she was sobbing, claiming it had all been a mistake, that she'd been confused and scared about our future, that Chloe had been putting ideas in her head, that she'd never actually planned to go through with it. I asked about the apartment lease, the secret bank account, the items already moved to Chloe's place. She had no answers. Then, in what I can only describe as peak desperation, she tried one last approach. She stepped closer, putting her hand on my chest, saying we could work through this, that she was sorry and wanted to try again, that the promotion would mean more money for both of us. I stepped back and told her I'd already consulted with a divorce attorney. The paperwork was ready to file tomorrow morning. I'd even been generous. I wasn't asking for alimony, despite the fact that I'd supported her through grad school in the early years of our marriage. All I wanted was a clean break and what was fairly mine. The look on her face was something I'll never forget. The moment she realized she'd completely misread me, that her prediction of me being predictable and that I wouldn't fight back was dead wrong, that while she'd been planning to discard me, I'd been 10 steps ahead of her the whole time. She asked where I would go. I told her I'd already arranged to stay with Michael for a while until I found a new place, that I'd be moving my things out today. Ashley followed me upstairs, still trying different angles to salvage the situation. She was worried about what people would think, about how this would affect her promotion if word got out about losing the house she loved. As I packed a suitcase with clothes, I explained that I had no intention of bad-mouthing her to friends or her workplace. That wasn't my style. but I also wouldn't lie if people asked what happened. When I finished packing the essentials, I headed back downstairs with Ashley still trailing behind me, alternating between threats and pleas. I stopped in the kitchen for one final moment. I gestured around at the beautiful space I'd created and told her I'd left her one last surprise, something she wouldn't discover unless the kitchen was renovated again someday. I wouldn't tell her what it was, but that it would serve as a time capsule of our marriage's end. The not knowing would drive her crazy, exactly as intended. Every time she used that kitchen, she'd wonder what message I'd left hidden in the walls, what evidence or words were sealed away behind the perfect backsplash tiles or under the sink cabinet. Before leaving, I handed her a folder containing copies of everything I'd discovered: the apartment lease, bank statements, text messages, journal entries. I told her I had the original stored safely elsewhere, not as a threat, but so she'd understand that denying what she'd done was pointless. As I loaded my suitcase into my truck, the rain had stopped and weak sunlight was breaking through the clouds. Ashley stood in the doorway, arms crossed, mascara streaked down her face. For a brief moment, I felt a pang of sadness for what could have been. 7 years is a long time to spend with someone, even if the foundation turned out to be rotten. I got in my truck and drove to Michael's place. He was waiting on his porch with a beer for each of us. No questions, no I told you so, just solid support when I needed it most. That night, Ashley blew up my phone with texts, first angry, then apologetic, then desperate. I read them all, but I didn't respond. Her sister Chloe called twice. I let it go to voicemail. Ashley's mom texted once, just to say she was thinking of me and hoped I was okay. I slept better that night than I had in a week, even on Michael's lumpy guest bed. The relief of no longer carrying the weight of that secret, of no longer having to pretend, was indescribable. Monday morning, my attorney filed the divorce papers. Monday afternoon, Ashley's promotion was officially announced. I saw it on Glassdoor. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. She got what she wanted professionally on the same day her personal life imploded completely. By Tuesday, she'd removed her relationship status from Instagram. It's been 3 weeks now. I found a small apartment closer to where I work. I've thrown myself into projects, keeping busy to avoid dwelling on things. Some days are harder than others. You don't unravel 7 years overnight. Ashley tried reaching out a few more times, even showed up at Michael's place once looking for me. I've maintained no contact except through the attorney. It's cleaner that way. Friends have mostly taken sides as expected. Some mutual friends were shocked. Others admitted they'd seen signs of trouble. A few have tried to play peacemakers, suggesting we try counseling. They mean well, but don't understand that some foundations are too compromised to rebuild on. Yesterday, I drove past our house and saw a for sale sign in the front yard. Seems Ashley doesn't want to live with the kitchen I built her after all. Maybe she can't stand knowing there's something hidden in the walls. Maybe the space holds too many memories. Or maybe she just needs the money now that her exit strategy fell apart. Whatever the reason, seeing that sign felt like the final piece of demolition. The structure that was our marriage has been completely dismantled down to the bare earth. And you know what? I'm ready to start a new project on solid ground this time.